Sonny Dykes says in year 4 of his 10-year championships should be the expectation.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. Thank you for making Locked On Horned Frogs your first listen. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're going to get into a lot of different things today, one of them being a disappointing midweek loss for TCU baseball against UTA. Is this one of those, hey, it happens in a long baseball season, or are there some more concerning signs? Big series this weekend for TCU baseball against Kansas. Conference standings, like first place in the Big 12 types of implications happening around the midway point of the season. So that's coming up. Olivia Miles is going to be a TCU Horned Frog. She's signed today, not just committed, publicly signed, announced on TNT as part of their Inside the NBA coverage that she's going to be playing for Mark Campbell in that squad. Was projected to be the number 2 pick in the WNBA draft. Decided she wanted to go play at TCU instead. So a pretty wild turn of events. Mark Campbell continues to do amazing things on the recruiting trail, but we start today with TCU football. Spring practice happened again this morning. Sonny Dykes spoke with the media afterwards, and I want to hone in on a couple of different things that he said, but the main one being, this is from Steven Johnson of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Dykes says the standard in year 4 is competing for a Big 12 title and a college football playoff berth. Said winning 9 games last year was nice, but a similar year would be disappointing in 2025 if TCU isn't contending for a spot in Arlington. So a lot of you will hear that, and your immediate reaction is, what's special about that? I can already see my friend Vince. Why am I supposed to be impressed that the coach of the football team has an expectation to win championships? But I will say this. I'm not asking you to be impressed. I'm glad he verbalized it publicly. I find it interesting that he did. For the most part, I think coaches are actually more realistic than people give them credit for. I believe they understand their teams. Now with the media, a lot of it is posturing and not truthful. But Sonny Dykes believes this team can win a Big 12 championship and can play in the college football playoff. If he did not believe that, he would not have said it publicly. Because that's not something that you say going into year 4 of your tenure when the results the past 2 years have been mixed, if you don't believe it. This is not coach in an opening press conference taking the job and saying, well, our goal is to beat our rivals, and our goal is to win conference championships, and our goal is to win national titles. Anybody can say that. There's no real pressure in saying that when you're getting introduced to the fan base. But once people see who you are and what you've done and the expectations that come with that, there is more pressure in publicly declaring these things. So I think it's telling that Sonny mentioned this because it means there's an internal confidence within the program. And I like that he called out and said, look, last year, there were some good things. I'm a firm believer. I know I'm here to do opinions and have hot takes. I'm a firm believer in the fact that 2 things can be true at the same time. We can hold coexisting ideas together. So last season was both a step in the right direction and also not the end-all be-all and not the standard that TCU football has set. They didn't meet that, okay? Now, it's funny because I think if I sat down with most of you before last season started and I said, look, TCU is going to win 9 games. They're going to beat Texas Tech. They're going to win a bowl game. I believe most of you would be happy with that. You would have said, okay, Great. Coming off a 5-win season, I will take a 9-win season. I'll take an 8-win season in the regular season, and I'll be okay with that. But the way the season played out, it felt like some meat was left on the bone, right? In part because they got off to a really rough start, and there was legitimate chatter about, hey, is this thing moving in the right direction? We just got whipped by Houston at home on a Friday night. We're 500 halfway through the season. This doesn't feel good. And they turned things around. But I think people looked at that and they looked at the fact that the schedule ended up being a lot more manageable than it looked before the year. They lost to 2 teams that were under 500. If you take care of business in those games, you're talking about a 10-win season. If you make a few plays against Baylor, you're talking about an 11-win season and a chance to play for a conference title, most likely. The SMU game, I mean, there's no really ifs and buts about that. They got beat. Yeah, if they didn't turn the ball over, it would have been a closer ball game. But as much as I hate to say it, they got outclassed that day. So there were some opportunities left out there. But I have been firmly saying now for a few months that this is the year that TCU has been building towards now for the past 3 seasons. Because if you want to give Sonny grace, which I'm not telling you you have to, but if you want to like look at it from a big picture perspective, okay, in year 1, you come in, you inherit a talented team, a very mature veteran team that was able to police themselves, that had leadership, player leadership, had people holding each other accountable, didn't need a super overbearing coach. They really enjoyed the new perspective. They fed off the new energy, and they took that and they ran with it. You won a lot of close games, and you made an incredible run. And then reality set in year 2 because that was truly your year 1. You lost a lot of those players. You had some roster shuffle. You lost your offensive coordinator. You end up going in 5-7. Last year, you make some strides. You end up with 9 wins. You figured out who your quarterback is. It's Josh Hoover. It didn't end up being Chandler Morris. It's Josh Hoover. That's your guy. You have an experienced quarterback. You have a defense in year 2 of their coordinator scheme. You have an offense in year 3 of their coordinator scheme. I know the schedule is difficult. I've looked at it just like you did. I understand that. You're playing SMU in non-conference play. They're coming off a playoff berth. You're playing Bill Belichick in North Carolina in week 1, arguably the greatest coach of all time. He's going to have months to prepare for your scheme. And they're going to have an advantage because they can look at the film from last year and dissect pretty well what you're going to do. TCU, honestly, it won't be as bad as Colorado a few years ago, but they won't know exactly what North Carolina is going to do. You got to play Colorado, which is a very talented team. You got to play Kansas State, which has had your number for a few years. Baylor has some momentum. You play them this year, right? Like the list goes on. You play BYU, Iowa State. Guess what, though? In my mind, if you're not playing in Arlington at the end of the year, that's disappointing for this team, even with all the obstacles, even with all the things that look like they're not lining up your way. That's the reality. If you were not playing for a Big 12 championship and playing for an opportunity to make the college football playoff with this core group this year, you didn't meet expectations. And that's not just me saying that. That's the head coach saying it. He has given us the standard. And I'm not telling you should be impressed with it, but what I'm saying is he wouldn't be giving these things out publicly if he didn't believe in this team. So I'm going to believe in this team too. That means they got to show up and win the ball games. And these things that have been holding them back for the last few years, physicality in the trenches, depth on the defensive line, a solid starting offensive line with some depth behind those guys as well. Those are still question marks that are being raised. It's still out there. We won't know until the season starts, but they better get ready to rock and roll because this is the year. He also said he feels like this is the deepest team they have had since he's been at TCU. And they've done a great job of evaluating and recruiting. That's why they only took 8 transfers this cycle. They are banking on continuity. They are banking on the evaluation that they have done in the high school ranks and in the portal over the last few years. This is not a team that's adding a lot of pieces. They're not approaching it like Texas Tech is. I'm not saying the way Tech is doing it is wrong, but you have two polar opposites of roster buildings right now. Okay. They're in Lubbock. They are loading up with guys who are going to be ready to go now. TCU has been building towards this for a few off seasons, and they feel like they have the pieces they need. They're ready to execute. So this is the year to do it. And it's going to be challenging. The Big 12 is a parity-driven league now more than ever. And you no longer have the round-robin schedule where you're playing everybody at least one time every season. But your schedule determines a lot of your success. Well, they're going to have to find a way to navigate it this year. Because this is what the train has been rolling down the tracks for now for a few seasons. When we come back, Mark Campbell is an elite recruiter. He does it again. If you work in HVAC, if you work in the plumbing business, if you're an electrician, you should give Supply House a try today. You've got overhead, you need supplies. Supply House is reliable and affordable, and it's the best way to order products online. They have an easy-to-use website that's packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. So you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Again, supplyhouse.com, SH5 for 5% off your first order. So a little over a week ago now, Olivia Miles shocked the women's basketball world by hitting the transfer portal. That was surprising in itself because she's been at Notre Dame for 4 years, has had an outstanding career. She's coming off a season where she averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists per game and shot 48% from the field. She was projected to be the number 2 pick in the WNBA draft. She instead is going to play her basketball at TCU this season. And when she hit the portal, there were immediately reports that TCU would be the front runner here. So the fact that she's committed and signed in itself is not surprising. But my goodness, what a pickup for Mark Campbell. I mean, watch Olivia Miles play. She is a special talent. She's a true point guard. And she's coming from a system and a team at Notre Dame where she has been in a loaded back. Hannah Hidalgo, outstanding player, shared those backcourt duties with her. And they were a great duo, a great team. They made the Sweet 16 this year. They fall to TCU. They lost to TCU early in the season. And the thing that stood out to me when I watched Miles play in that Sweet 16 game, and then as I, dove in more to her highlights and some of the tape today, she is such a good passer. Now, the scoring is what's going to catch everybody's eyes, and she can fill it up. She dropped 28 points on Pitt this year. As I said, she averaged 15 points a game. She has become a better shooter throughout her career, and she is not just a catch-and-shoot player. She honestly seems to shoot better in rhythm when she's breaking down people off the dribble. She's got a nasty step-back 3 that she can pull out. She gets downhill and gets to the line a lot. She can get in the lane and finish. She's an all-around scorer. Haley Van List came to TCU because she was on a team at LSU where she didn't feel like she fit in very well from a scheme perspective, right? She had a tough season. She was looking to rebound and find her groove again and get back to a place where she could be a ball dominant guard, where she could have the ball in her hands and the decision making was on her. They're going to run a lot of pick and roll and allow her to make those choices. And Miles is really good in pick and roll situations at finding players around the rim, setting up shots, but also getting her own offense as well. She's incredibly unselfish. She can shoot. She can fill it up. I mean, this is a game-changing player. This is your replacement for Haley Van Lith, who did so much for that team last year, who did so much for that offense. This is who they're bringing in to take on that role. So it's just incredible. Now, I'm not naive, okay? Olivia Miles gave up a nice payday from the WNBA to play college ball. So she's not here for free. She's also a very marketable player. As I said earlier, tonight, NBA doubleheader on TNT. During the Inside the NBA coverage, she made her announcement. Shaquille O'Neal brought her a box that had her TCU jersey in there. And she made the announcement that she's going to play for the Horned Frogs. But I think what Mark can't, so my point being there, like, she is a national figure. I think what Mark Campbell has shown, though, yes, TCU is spending money to make this happen. But he has also shown through these first that he's been the coach for TCU, that relationships still matter in recruiting. Maybe not with every single recruit. For some players, it is just about, let me write on a piece of paper what I want, or let me write on a piece of paper what school down the street is offering me. And if you can match that, we can get this done. If you can't, then no need to waste my time. But the players Mark has landed in the portal, whether it was Sedona Prince, Maddie Shear, who will be back from an injury this year, Haley Van Lith, now Olivia Miles. When he was the lead assistant at Oregon, he was putting together like top 10 classes in the country every year. And he didn't get all these players to commit to play at Oregon while he was there, but he had a relationship with them because he was recruiting them during that time frame. And he's leveraged that and found ways to get them on campus and get them to commit and shown them like, hey, I want you to succeed. I want to put you in the spotlight. I want to make you the best player you can be. So just an incredible pickup. I mean, you can't say enough about what they've done and showing again, like, this is not a one-off thing. It wasn't like, we just kind of, right place, right time. We get Haley Van Lith coming off a rough season at LSU, transform her into who she really is, and then she leaves and things fall off. No, they're coming right back at it. And I don't think Olivia Miles just herself makes them better than UConn or South Carolina or Texas, but it helps close the gap a little bit, and it helps sustain the success and the momentum around the program right now. They also landed Talia Parker from Texas A&M, who has pretty modest numbers, 5 points, 2 rebounds, and assists per game at Texas A&M, but she's coming off a true freshman season. She's one of the top players in the country in that recruiting cycle. So this is, hey, you've got 3 years of eligibility left. Let's figure this out together. Let's see if we can, find what you need to do here, find a role for you, and how you can thrive in our system. And I would bank on Mark Campbell finding a way to make players succeed, because that's what he does. They also have Clara Silva from Kentucky, who's 6'7". They've got 2 6'7" freshmen coming in next year. So they're making an effort to get longer and get bigger. And they need that. If you watch the South Carolina game this year, if you watch the Texas game this year, the size and the defensive intensity of those teams really bothered TCU, and they couldn't get clean shots off. But man, I mean, if you would have told us even 6 months ago, TCU be in the portal, landing the best player in the portal again, I would have been shocked. But Mark Campbell finding a way to get it done. When we come back, TCU baseball drops a tough game on the road tonight. That's coming up here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. So TCU went over to Arlington, as they do once or twice a season. They'll go over there. Usually UTA comes over here. I didn't look at the schedule before I started talking here to see if they're going to return the favor later in a midweek game, but they fall to UTA 6-4. And they took a 1-0 lead, but then after that, they were really behind for most of the game. They did tie it at 2 and tied at 3. Carson Bowen had a home run. Sawyer Stroh-Snyder continues to just mash the ball. He had another home run to tie it at 3. But then in the bottom of the 7th, Trevor Baumler comes in, gives up a hit a batter. UTA lays down a bunt. So still not a great situation. Probably looking at second and third and 1 out if you make the play. Well, Trevor botches the throw. It gets away. The batter goes all the way to third. 2 runs score. So now it's 5-3. They end up falling behind 6-3. Noah Franco had an RBI single to cut it to 6-4 in the 8th inning, but they couldn't muster anything in the 9th. These things happen in baseball. But this is still a disappointing loss for a team that was really hot coming into this ball game and is getting ready for a huge conference showdown against Kansas this weekend. That defensive play just killed them tonight. And the fact that they couldn't really get their offense going. I mean, a couple solo home runs, a 2-out single by Franco, but that was it. Against the UTA pitching staff that has struggled mightily this season. So, tough loss for TCU. We'll see if they can bounce back this weekend when they take on Kansas. I'll mention this quickly. Also in that Sonny Dykes press conference, he said Jordan Bailey and Major Everhart missing a lot of the spring or not going full speed in the spring because of some injuries. Don't love that news. I've been very adamant that Jordan Bailey could be a weapon for this team, but he needs to be on the field. He needs to get reps. He's not a veteran who, can miss a lot of time. He needs all the opportunities possible to make sure he knows what he needs to do, where he needs to be. So I hope that he can do that. I hope Everhart can do that. Because as much as I love Ed Small, I think you're going to need a mix there at the slot. I don't know if you can count on a freshman to be the dude all season long as a starter. Some thoughts from yesterday's episode. I talked about Josh's ability to possibly run the ball a little bit more. One user said it doesn't shock me. I've always felt his mobility issues were overblown. Sometimes he definitely sits too much in the pocket, but he's good at extending plays and successfully runs when he chooses to. If he can do it enough to where teams have to plan around the threat, that takes a lot of pressure off of running backs. Yes, it does. And, I mean, I'm not sure anybody ever argued that he was a statue. He's not your typical dual threat guy and that he doesn't have a ton of speed. But for me, the thing is, last season, I just felt like he struggled in running zone read concepts, the ball handling aspect, like getting the ball to his running backs in the mesh point, those types of things. So if he can clean that up, I think he has the athleticism needed to go make plays. For me, it's not really a lack of athleticism or explosiveness. It's just about getting some of those concepts down better. And then Frog fan says he's been rewatching games from last year. He thinks Josh has big-time arm talent. He compares him to Jared Goff and feels like he could be a steal in the draft later on. I agree. I think he's got big-time arm talent. Now, I don't really know at this moment where he'll rate with NFL scouts, but he can make all the throws and has enough athleticism and mobility to be a good prospect. This year's going to be big for him. And we'll see where he evaluates himself after that. But this is a second full season of starting games, another opportunity to show exactly what he can do. So, yeah, I'm expecting a big year from Josh Hoover. I think he's great talent. I think his arm talent shows up in a big way when he plays on Saturdays. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're coming up on 1,500 subscribers. I love that. It's your team. We do it here every day.